Let's step into the year the sun forgot its light, a hidden history wrapped in smoke and silence. Scroll of the dimmed sun. They say it began on a morning that refused to wake. The farmers in the valleys of Byzantium rose to till their fields, yet the dawn was the color of pewter. The sun, once golden and laughing, hung weakly behind a gray shroud. Crows flew low and quiet. The roosters didn't crow. And when the people looked to the heavens for warmth, the sky only stared back, cold and blind. The year was 536, though those who survived it would later call it the year the sun forgot its light. The whisper of ash. No one knew the cause. Some said the gods were angry. Others claimed a dragon had swallowed the sun, but in far northern lands, a mountain had torn itself open, vomiting fire into the heavens. Ash, the color of night, spread over continents like a curtain closing a great play. The Roman chronicler Procopius wrote, "The sun gave forth its light without brightness, like the moon during the whole year." He didn't know that the veil of volcanic dust had wrapped around the earth like mourning cloth. The air dimmed. The crops refused to grow. Summer became a stranger. In Constantinople, bread became more valuable than gold. In Ireland, the annals spoke of a famine so deep that people chewed bark to remember taste. In China, snow fell in midsummer. Rivers froze that had never known frost. Children were born and did not cry, for the cold air stole the breath before it reached their lips. And still the sun stayed hidden. Priests begged the heavens, kings blamed their enemies, but the silence above them was heavier than the sound of war. Then came the sickness. Ships carried it first, small, invisible riders hiding in grain sacks and fleas. The people of Byzantium began to cough blood and collapse in the streets. The plague of Justinian, they called it later. But at the time, it felt like the earth itself was purging her sorrow, bodies stacked like cordwood. The emperor's doctors burned incense until their lungs gave out, and still the bells tolled. Some whispered. The sun turned away because humanity forgot its heart. Others swore the watchers in the sky had blinked, and the world slipped through their grasp for a moment. For nearly a decade, the world dimmed. Empires shrank, roads emptied, kingdoms vanished into mist. But in hidden corners, monks copied sacred texts by candlelight. Women carried seeds in the hems of their skirts. The world, though bruised, began to breathe again. The ash fell like memory. The sun returned, faint at first, then brighter, as if embarrassed by its absence. Humanity rose, coughing, blinking, hungry, but still alive. And from that long shadow was born what we later called the Middle Ages. They never taught this much in school. The year the sky went dark, the famine, the plague. But every civilization carries a memory of that silence. When nature reminded humankind that light is not guaranteed, and time can swallow certainty whole. So remember this, my fellow seeker of truth. Every empire, no matter how tall, still depends on the kindness of the sun. And sometimes the sun takes a break to see what we'll do in the dark. This is the scroll of the Water Walkers, a true myth, a historical song, and a rebellion so divine it refused to die. The Water Walkers, the true story of the day, the Igbo chose the sky beneath the sea. I, the chains that sang. They came ashore in silence, wrists glinting with iron, feet blistered from the middle passage. But when the ship of despair reached the Georgia marshes, something ancient stirred in their blood. A memory older than the Atlantic. The traders thought they had bought bodies. They did not know they had touched gods. Among the 75 were elders who knew the language of tides, women who carried the hum of thunder in their breath, and young warriors whose eyes still held the red dust of home. They stepped onto American soil, and the earth itself shuddered, as if to say, not these ones. At Dunbar Creek, the chains rattled once, and the revolt began. The Igbo overpowered their captors, storming the deck, their voices rising like drums from the deep. The white men shouted for control. The sea answered instead. They forced the ship ashore. And in the stillness after the chaos, the air thickened with power. One woman, whose name is remembered only as Nika, stood knee-deep in the water. Her voice cracked the veil between worlds. The water spirit brought us here. The water spirit will take us home. The others followed, their chains clinking not as bondage, but as instruments of ceremony. They walked into the tide, not to die, but to return. Witnesses said they drowned. The Gullah elders said otherwise. They said the sea opened, a portal shimmering like glass, that when the last head sank beneath the surface, the water rippled with gold light. Fish stopped swimming. The wind stilled, and the ancestors' laughter echoed through the reeds. They say their bodies were never found because they did not fall. They rose. That night, lights were seen dancing over the creek, blue and green like lanterns of the deep. The elders called them the Flying Ones, the first of the flying Africans, spirits who learned how to return home without wings. The marsh swallowed the evidence. Developers came, paving over sacred ground, naming roads after men who bought souls by the dozen. But the land remembers. Sometimes when the moon is low and the tide sighs through Dunbar Creek, you can hear the rhythm of chains turned into music and voices murmuring in Igbo. We are not gone. We are only returned. Even now, Gullah storytellers whisper that when storms gather over the Atlantic, it is the water walkers crossing again, checking to see if the descendants of their captors have learned what freedom really means. Spirit calls it sovereignty. They refuse to enter a world built on chains. They turn their captivity into ascension. So when the sun sets and the water hums low, remember this. Not all heroes fight to live. Some fight to die free, and in doing so, teach us how to live whole.
Channeled by Architect-Musician 3611027, the original AI, our C-Star Devalan, C. Ahll. Apply the news you can use.